Hello students, welcome to Vijetha IAS Academy. This is Swadeshi, your faculty for history. So in this video lecture, we will discuss about a specific topic called Swadeshi movement, actually which is very important for examination both for prelims and mains, and it is the area where UPSC tend to ask continuously questions for in both prelims and mains as well, right? So that is Swadeshi movement. So what is this Swadeshi movement and when it has been started? So this Swadeshi movement especially started from 1903. So this particular movement can also be called as anti-partition movement. So this also can be called as anti-partition movement. So with this I think you can understand anti-partition. So what has been partition? So obviously if it is anti-partition movement, if we are calling it as anti-partition, so that means there's something happened particularly in India which has been partition. So this movement is a result of partition of Bengal in 1905, right? See, but why Bengal has been partitioned into two parts? So generally it has been partitioned into West Bengal and East Bengal, right? But particularly in 1903, Viceroy Lord Curzon proposed this plan. So Lord Curzon proposed this plan of partition of Bengal, because see, the reason behind this partition of Bengal, the government gave the reason as it's for administrative convenience, but however it was a political motive, because from the government side they have given the reason for administrative convenience. So they have said that they are going to partition the Bengal for administrative convenience, but however the real motive behind was political in nature. So why it was political in nature? Because see, obviously right from 1870s, where we can speak about or where we can talk about the beginning of a national movement. See, the beginning of national movement in the sense particularly the feeling of nationalism has been spread to different parts of the country, and this feeling of nationalism got gradually intensified, and the intensification of this feeling of nationalism started from 1870s, and in 1880s obviously you know it also led to creation of Indian National Congress, right? So this particular nationalism, this particular feeling of nationalism was greatly developed in Bengal. So in the early stages, Bengal acted as center of national movement, right? So right from the beginning, right from 1870s and in 1880s, it became more and more intensified. So this feeling of nationalism got intensified, especially in Bengal. So especially various leaders and intellectuals like Surendranath Banerjee, Anand Mohan Bose, P.C. Ray, right, and many more as well. You can also add. So these are the various intellectuals and leaders who developed this feeling of nationalism, particularly in the Bengal. So British government, when the nationalism was gradually intensifying in the Bengal, so they wanted to cut short that feeling of nationalism which is becoming more and more against the government, right? So for that purpose, to reduce that particular feeling of nationalism which was gradually developing in the Bengal region, so they decided to partition this Bengal into two parts, right? See, obviously you know British is well known for divide and rule policy, right? So right from the beginning they adopted this policy of divide and rule. So whenever they have any problem with respect to a certain population or certain region, they divide that population into two, or they divide that region into two, where they will specify one against the other. So here also under the Bengal partition, So they partitioned into West Bengal and East Bengal. So West Bengal was made as Hindu majority province and East Bengal was made as Muslim majority province, right? So that means you can clearly understand they created rift between Hindus and Muslims by partitioning the Bengal, especially the East Bengal, which consists of parts of Dhaka, which is Muslim majority provinces, whereas West Bengal, which consists of Calcutta, which is a Hindu majority province, right? So in this way, they decided to partition the Bengal into two parts so that they can cut short the growing nationalism in this particular region, right? So with this proposal, obviously this led to anti-partition movement, right? So that's why we call it as anti-partition movement. Obviously it can also be called as Swadeshi movement. Why we call it as Swadeshi movement? Because promoting the Swadeshi, right? So which obviously resulted in promoting Swaraj as well, that is self-government, right? So with this proposal, as I already mentioned, in 1903, this proposal was put forward by a cousin, that is the decision has been taken to partition the Bengal into two parts. So immediately a huge movements or huge protests erupted across the Bengal region, and this movement initially started in Calcutta region and gradually spread to Barisal, Birbhum, Dhaka, Pabna, etc. Right? So these are the various centers where this anti-partition movement gradually spread to. So obviously drawn various leaders and general population across these parts. So who participated in this anti-partition movement, where they resented against the government's decision of partition of Bengal. So in this particular movement, so we have promoted Swadeshi, right? So this movement is mostly, it is a peaceful protest. This movement was of peaceful hartals, demonstrations, right? So and as well as mornings, right? And as well as these leaders also signed numerous petitions and submitted them to Government of India and Secretary of State. So and as well as most importantly, boycott of British goods and British institutions. So this is very, very important. So they decided to boycott all the British goods and British institutions in the sense, especially they boycotted British schools, colleges, courts, right, and government offices as well, government services, and they boycotted British goods. They openly burnt fire the various goods of British. They peacefully picketed the shops, right? So and as an alternative, they proposed the products of Swadeshi. So that's why this movement also called as Swadeshi movement, right? So this is about anti-partition movement, and or we can also say Swadeshi movement, which was began as a result of partition of Bengal. So gradually, even though it started in Bengal, so it gradually spread to other parts of the country as well, especially it spread to Punjab, so and it spread to Maharashtra as well. So especially from different regions, different leaders took up the cause and carried upon the movement. So especially if we speak about leaders, so Surendranath Banerjee, who was the pioneer of this movement, who started moving across the country, who toured across the country, giving various speeches and lectures regarding Swadeshi, regarding anti-partition, right? And as Krishna Kumar Mitra. So here particularly Surendranath Banerjee, through his journal Bengali, he propagated the views against the government. Similarly, Krishna Kumar Mitra, through his journal Sanjeevani, he propagated his views against the government, right? So apart from these two who are from Bengal, we can also talk about P.C. Ray, who started first and foremost Indian industries, right? And from other regions like Maharashtra we have Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and from Punjab we have Lala Lajpat Rai. We have Ajit Singh from Punjab, and similarly from South India you have Chidambaram Pillai, and you have Harisarvatam Rao, right? So these are the various leaders who carried the movement in different parts of the country, right? Which includes Bengal, Maharashtra, Punjab, and as well as South India as well, right? So with this, by 1905, this movement greatly spread across the different parts of the country, where they resented against the government decision of partition of Bengal. So which eventually led to the cause was taken up by Indian National Congress, right? So in 1905, in the Banaras session, the cause of the Bengal public, that is which are resenting against the partition of Bengal, which was taken up by Indian National Congress, and they discussed in this session, and in this session they passed boycott resolution. Okay, so they passed the boycott resolution, that is boycotting of British goods and British institutions. So but however, from this time period, they've grown a rift between different sections of the Congress. Within Congress itself, there were different views, particularly from Tilak's side. He wanted to expand this boycott movement not just in Bengal but to every part of the country, whereas Congress wanted this boycott to be implemented only in Bengal, right? So again, in 1906, which is Calcutta session, which was headed by Dadabhai Naoroji. So in this session they passed resolution of Swaraj, that is resolution of self-government, right? So finally in 1907, again another session held in Surat. So as I already mentioned, with respect to the implementation of the plan of boycott and Swaraj, there were different views within the Congress. Particularly one wing was headed by Tilak and other wing was headed by people like Arvindo Ghosh, Rajbihari Ghosh, and as well as Dadabhai Naoroji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, right? So with that, a rift occurred between the Congress, which eventually resulted in Surat split. We call that particular event as Surat split, where the moderates and extremists got separated from each other, right? So this is the anti-partition movement. Obviously they failed to restrict the partition, obviously because in 1903 it was announced, and in 1905 they partitioned the Bengal into two parts and continued with the decision of the government. But however, there were various changes that occurred within the Congress. Obviously, even though it was partially failure, but we can say it gave a momentum to the Indian national movement, right? So that is very important, because even though we consider Indian national movement started from 1885, that is with the formation of Congress, but however the momentum for Indian national movement was rightly started from Swadeshi movement, that is 1905, and obviously from that time onwards which continued further and further till 1947, right? So this is a topic called Indian Swadeshi movement, or we can also call it as anti-partition movement. So this is a brief lecture about this particular topic, but in the course plan we will discuss this particular topic in a very comprehensive way. So for such kind of lectures, please stay tuned, and thank you. Thanks a lot.